But I do want to do one more thing. I just think that will be interesting, which is I want to show how to make a free guy, because that'll show um, how to spice up the game a little bit. So I'm just going to copy the top of this guy. It's not going to need him. I'm going to create a new module. I'll save him in the Crash Droids library, and this module I'm going to call free guy. Okay, but I'm going to call the class free guy, not enemy, obviously. And here, base sprite, when you initialize a base sprite, it wants a image to start with as the master image. So I'm going to give him as a master image the guy image instead. So he's going to look just like the guy. And let's make him more rotatey. Okay. Okay, so now just like that, just by copying that, he's going to have the same behavior as when you initialize an enemy. He's going to start around the perimeter, and he'll have some rotation and some velocity and whatnot. Um, so um, we'll rotate left or right, or he won't rotate. Um, okay, I think we always want him to rotate, so let's just do this. Okay. So now if it's -3, -2, -1, he'll rotate left. If it's 0, 1, 2, he'll rotate right. And he'll rotate pretty fast. Actually, you know what? We don't have to make that random. We'll just make him rotate. Let's make them rotate fast. Okay, so now I have the free guy kind of set up the way I want. We'll start tinkering with it, but we have to actually add them to the game. So let's go back to the Crash Droids model, and I'll show you what we need to do to add them to the game. So first thing that I want to do is create a new sprite group. And you could imagine that I maybe want to be able to have more than one free guy. Probably what I'm going to do is end up having all different kinds of power-ups. So let's create a power-ups sprite group, and let's find where we make the sprite groups. Okay, so here is where we make the sprite groups. Okay, so I'm going to make a new sprite group called power-ups. And you make a sprite group by calling this function in the Pygame library, render updates. It's not real intuitive that that's what it does, but it does in fact in turn return an initialized sprite group. And the sprite group is basically an array of sprites, and you can operate on all the sprites in that array through single function calls to the sprite group. I'll show you how you do that in a sec, but first we actually need a name, add a guy to it, to add something to the sprite group. So let's see, where would we do that? I think controller tick is the right function to do that in. So 15 times a second, the controller tick function is called. And the controller tick function looks at the keyboard and sees if you're trying to control the game. If you are trying to control the game, it sends information to the different sprites to tell them how to behave, mostly to the guy. So this seems like a good place to add this functionality. So again, we're going to be using some randomness here because we want it to be unpredictable when you get a guy. So let's say if random.randint dot 0. Now, normally, you'd make a big number here, but let's make not such a big number so that it happens frequently enough that we can test it. So about once every second, we'll say once every second, power-ups, add free guy. Ooh, you know what? Just occurred to me, I haven't actually imported the free guy module, have I? So let me go up to my imports here from crashdroids.freeguy import free guy. Okay, so now I've imported them. Okay, so now it'll add him, but he's not really ready yet because even though I'm creating him and adding him to a sprite group, the sprite group isn't doing anything yet. So after the controller tick function gets called, all the sprites get updated. When the sprites get updated, that really just means that their internal um, data gets updated. So I'm gonna command the sprite group, all the power ups, to go ahead and update their internal data. You want to do that before the next function, which is viewTick, gets called. ViewTick gets called, it's going to tell everything to draw. So you really want to update the internal data because that's going to determine where it draws on the screen, like how rotated it is and everything. And the Pygame template makes this super easy for you because it has a screen and everything all set up for you. So say powerups.draw screen. Okay, so now we should be able to run this. Let's see what we get. No module named free guy. No module named, oh, huh, asteroids. Dope. Okay, me and my awesome attention to detail. So where were we? Okay, we can look here. Well, just in case. Draw power-ups. Okay, so let's try this again. Yay. Oh look, it's already started to add free guys. And you can see about once every second, or about once every 15 tick, free guys are called. But now the thing about them is, like, that nothing happens when I get them, right? Like, I really want something to happen when I touch one. So let's handle that now. So that touching, like when sprites touch each other, that's called sprite collision. And sprite collision is quite easy in Pygame, and that's all set up for you to add that here. So after everything's drawn, then we call the check collisions function. And so the check collision functions where you check for collisions. So let's assume that the guy is alive. He's not in the process of exploding. Then what we want to do is say, do exactly what we did here. So here, the first thing that happens is checks, is there an enemy? So we call the pygame.sprite sprites collide any function and pass in the guy. Basically, we're asking that this sprite G, the guy, intersect or collide with any enemies in the enemy sprite group. And if so, we're going to explode them. We want to write that exact same code here. So free guy equals pygame.sprite collide any guy free guys. Okay. And now, of course, if it didn't collide with any, which is most of the time, it's going to be none. See, the template says is not equal to none. I prefer to say is not none. And if, let's see. So now what we want to do is we want to add the free guy. Well, remember I said before there's actually a game object that's already created. The game object has a function on it called add free guy. And this will increment your guys. It'll give you an extra life, and it'll also play the free guy sound for you. And now let's just get rid of the free guy. We don't want the free guy sprite group line. We don't want this free guy sprite anymore. So we're going to call kill. So kill is built into the Pygame sprite class, and kill is different. Kill just like instantly removes the sprite from the gameplay. It doesn't start an explosion sequence or anything. He just disappears. It's pretty much what we want. So let's try that out. Let's see if I did this right. Free guys is not defined. Oh, I said free guys. What the heck? It's in power ups. Okay. So I put them in this general power ups class what you'd expect is, see if I can get one. Okay, there you can see that I'm colliding with them. Now probably what I'll do later is I'll add to every power up a function like do the power up, whatever, grant the power. And but for the time being, I'll just handle it here since there's only one kind of power up. So that is the game. It has some playability here.